Hi everyone, welcome back to my little homestead. Today I'm going to be making some more sourdough pizza bases, which I've just started doing a while ago, and I thought I might just bring you along and just show you what I'm doing if you want to make them yourself. I'll see you in a minute. Bye. Now I've already actually made up the dough, but I'm just going to tell you what I did. So my starter was down to probably about here, and then yesterday I fed it with half a cup of flour, just high grade regular bread flour. I used half wholemeal and half white, and some pure water from the Berkey water filter, and then I just mixed it together and let it froth up, and then I just put it away in the fridge last night. But what I had been doing was so I started building up the starter. So I poured off a cup, and then I added a half a cup of flour and fed it, and then I kept doing that for a couple of days till I got a really big bubbly looking starter. And then just last night I added into this bowl, it was about 3 cups of flour and however much water I needed to make a dough. It might have been about 1.5 cups to 2 cups, because I already had all that starter in there. And then I made it till it was not a dry dough and not firm, but just a sort of soft dough, not too sticky. And then this morning it always bubbles up to about here, and then I added in 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, and that froths up. So then I just mix that down again, and now I'm just going to add in a little bit of flour and show you what else I do. So see you soon. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra flour into the top of this, just so it's not too sticky, but not too much actually. I'll use my scraper thing, that'll be better. So I only just started, I came up with this recipe just a couple of weeks ago, but I love it so much. So I just pre-make these bases and then I freeze them. And I'll show you step by step kind of how I do it. So I've got some, on a baking tray, I've put some parchment paper on it. And then once they're cooked, and I only cook them for 10 minutes, that's just enough, because you want this dough to be soft. I'm just going to put my starter back in the fridge, because I'm not going to be using it again probably for about a week. Okay, so now you scoop out of this size bowl, I'll probably get 4. So I'm just going to get my tray here. I'll just arrange that so you can see properly what I'm doing. And then using just a spoon, where's my big spoon gone? There it is. Just a big spoon. I'm going to scoop out about 1/4 of this, which might be equal to about 2 cups. So just plop it onto there, and then I just cover that, stop it drying out, and I just get a knife. I'm using these old-fashioned knives because they're quite flat, and then I'm just going to spread it out. Now this little bit, it takes a while, so you want to do this in the morning when you've just, or whenever you want to do it, when you've got a little bit of time. But you can see how easy it is to spread out, and you want it to be soft like this, so it's not going to, because with this pre-baking thing, if you'd added too much flour and it was too much like a stiff, you know, like a bread dough consistency, then it would just get, the crust gets too dry with all the different sorts of baking. So with pre-baking it for just 10 minutes, I find that's just perfect. So then when I want to use it, I take it out of the freezer, let it defrost, and then I just put on my toppings. Don't overload it with toppings, and then I'll put it in a hot fan bake oven at about 200 to 220 degrees Celsius, and then so you can make this as thick or thin as you want. So I spread it out to probably about 1 centimetre thick, just under 1/2 inch, and Yeah, and then once you've got all your toppings on, I just put it into the hot oven and cook it for about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on if you want it a little bit crunchy, like we do. Yeah, and then I just find that it's just wonderful. It just makes a lovely pizza base. It's, yeah, so that's what I've been doing lately. Because what I used to do was just get my starter out of the fridge the day before, and then I'd get it sort of fed up a bit, and then I would take out a cup, and then I'd add 2 cups to that, and just leave it throughout the day until I had a dough. You know, make it into like a little dough, and then leave it just for the day to rise, and then just before I was going to make a pizza with it, I'd add in a bit of baking soda, maybe like half to 1 teaspoon. And yeah, and then I just put my toppings on, but it just used to have to bake for a bit longer. But this way, even though it takes a little bit of time doing all the spreading, but it's just one of those sort of things I don't mind doing. Yeah, and then I've just got all these pizza bases in the freezer, and the best thing is that they're sourdough. I've never, I don't think ever in my life have I ever bought a frozen pizza base, but I have bought frozen pizzas to take to potlucks and things like that. There's a one in particular that I love. It's a spinach, feta and mozzarella pizza, and I have been buying that one quite a bit lately. But I thought, well, why don't you just start doing this, Linda? So that's what I've been doing lately. Yep, so just spread it out to as thin or as thick as you want. It actually might be a little bit thinner than a centimetre. And you'll be surprised how much it sort of puffs up and how different it looks once it's cooked. It kind of cooks up to like probably 3/4 of an inch thick. Yeah, so I'm going to do 4 of these. So it's, I would say it's just about ready. It's a little bit wider. I made some of these for my daughter yesterday. Popped them in the freezer. She just had her 5th baby and has a little wee grandson, so it's their first son. They've got 4 daughters, so he's just so welcomed into that family. So loved. His name's Isaac John, and he weighed 7 pound 1 ounce. So he's a lovely little boy. He had to have a little bit of oxygen at the start, but that was just for 2 days, just a little bit of help with the respirator, because I think when you have a cesarean you can get a little bit of fluid in your lungs, little ones can. Yeah, so that got them all fixed up. So here we have it. We have the pizza base about to go into the oven. So I'll see you in a minute when I bring it out. So I'm putting it in for 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to do one more. Right, so it's puffed up again. That's just the baking soda. So scoop out again about 2 cups worth. So I know in other parts of the world you're getting, it's winter, in a different hemisphere, and you've got snow and all sorts of things like that going on. Well, here in New Zealand we're having summer, and it's quite sort of droughty weather. I don't know if you can see out my window, but down on our grass it's very dry. It looks terrible actually. On one particular part every year it just gets really dry, and this year it's just like the worst it's ever been on that patch. But we've been doing lots of gardening here at the Little Homestead, mainly taking out plants that just, because we don't get snow here, it doesn't, like if you get snow often it will kill off some plants in the winter. So plants that are a nuisance here In other countries, because of the snow and the hard frost, it would kill them off, and one of those is oxalis. I've never been able to get rid of oxalis. I've just learned to live with it. But we've also got ivy. I have been battling that for 14 years, popping up in different parts of the garden. And we try to have an organic garden, so we haven't sort of resorted to spraying a lot of the garden. My husband does spray weeds on pathways and that sort of thing, but we don't use it around the vegetable garden or the fruit gardens. I mean the flower gardens. Yeah, so we took out a big old what's it called, wisteria that was on the front of our house. It did look really pretty when it flowered for its very short time in spring, whenever it was flowering, can't even remember now. But what a nuisance it was the rest of the year. It was always it was close to it. That little front veranda is by our bedroom window, and the tendrils and things that would come out, the new growth that would come out, would sometimes, if we didn't keep it clipped back, it would just about come in our bedroom window, and it was just a huge amount of work. I would deter anybody from getting a wisteria unless you want to be, or unless you've got the time to be out there clipping it and maintaining it all the time. So we had that, which is gone now. I was sad to see it go, because I loved just the old-fashioned look it gave the front of our house, and I loved the pretty flowers that draped down and sort of in lovely pale purple clusters like grapes. That was all really lovely, but I just feel like as I'm getting older, I have to be sensible about the garden and about what I can realistically manage, and yeah, and what we can't. And my husband, he sort of has enjoyed the garden more as we've got older, just had a bit more time for it, I suppose. But I wouldn't say he's a gardener. He just kind of does the lawns and will do anything that I ask him to do or that I need him to help me with. But he'd probably rather watch a Western or read his book. But he is a wonderful husband. He's so caring and helpful and lovely. Very blessed with my husband. Okay, so there's another one ready. Yeah, so the other thing that we've taken out is a clematis, which was growing along our veranda in another part of the house. And that was so pretty when it flowered in the spring. I've taken many pictures of it over the years. I've just realised my camera's flopped down. Goodness gracious. What a terrible, terrible angle. And so it had its brief flowering time, a bit like the wisteria, and then it would be all over, and then if we got heavy rain or something, it would just be all over so fast. And then the rest of the year I'd spend, well, apart from winter, clipping it, tidying it up. And I thought, I was so sick of it. I just couldn't be bothered anymore with having to keep. And it was kind of right by where the steps are where people come up to the house. So I had to always be clipping it so it wasn't going to be a nuisance and poking into people when they're walking up. Yeah, and because also we need to paint the veranda and the all that little railing and all the palings, and it's just going to be a huge job. And I thought it's just going to be ridiculous if we only paint half, because it was such an old plant that had wound itself around. It looked like a basket weaving. That's how much of it was and how thick. And I actually hurt my arm when I was cutting it all back and removing it, because I didn't cut it back. I cut it right down and probably killed it. Because it just had to be taken off. Yeah, and it was such a heavy thing, and it was hard to sort of pull it out from the way that it had woven itself all amongst the railings. So I think I just sort of strained myself or something. Anyway, I think that's just the thing when you get older, you just haven't got the physical strength that you had when you were younger, and you just have to be careful with your body and what you can do, and not to sort of over stretch yourself, whether that's staying up too late too often, trying to do too much at once. There's just so many times when you just need to really listen to your body and get enough sleep and eat a really good diet, and yeah, just not be over physical. I even find now with exercise, and I've got this motorized treadmill, and if I walk too fast or take too big a strides, I'll end up injuring, must be some ligaments or something in my knee, and then I've strained it and I won't be able to go on the jolly thing again for weeks. So if I'm going to use it at all now, I just have to go a lot slower, which sometimes just feels a bit pointless. But anyway, it's just a process, I think, as you get older, of adjusting to your limitations, accepting it, not getting down about it, just accepting it and just doing what you can do. Alright, so there's number 3. And then I'll wait till the other tray comes out. Or actually, I'll just put it onto paper and then I'll spread it on shortly. So I'm just going to check that other one and see how we're coming along. See you in a minute. Okay, so I've taken it out of the oven. It's had 8 minutes and it's cooked enough. And I can feel it, it's still sort of soft, and that's just how you want it. You don't want it all dried out. But you can see that makes a good sized pizza for 2 people. So I'll come back in a minute when I've finished doing all of them. Okay, so this is what I do once it's cooled and cooked. I just get a clean tea towel on here, flip it over, and then I carefully just peel the paper off. And then I put it back, either leave it this way up, and then I just put another sheet, the other sheet of baking paper, put the other one on, and then I just kind of fold the edge bits in, cover it with cling film, put it into a freezer bag or a big plastic bag, and then I just put them in the freezer and take them out when we need it to make a pizza. So I hope you enjoyed that today, me just showing you how I make my pizza bases, and I hope to see you again soon. God bless. Oh, and please know, for all those countries that are snowed in right now, like America and dear friends in different countries, oh gosh, now there's my timer, turn that off, just having a real bad time because of COVID, and people who loved ones have lost loved ones, or husbands or family have got COVID or have just gotten over it, please know that I'm thinking of you and praying for you, and really do pray that God just brings an end to all this soon. And just take care. God bless everyone. Bye for now.